Have you been pumping for weeks or months or years, and now you are ready to be done? Are you feeling a little bit lost because you worked so hard to build up a pumping routine and to make so much milk for your baby, and now you don't know how to stop? Or maybe you're feeling really emotional because you never were really able to build up that milk. And you've worked so hard around the clock to create a pumping routine, and yet you're just eking out ounces. I see you too, because that can be so hard. Either way, this week, you're going to feel really confident about knowing how to wean from the pump, regardless of what your situation is. So let's get into it.
When I began breastfeeding, I was blindsided by how difficult it was. I may have thought I was prepared, but having known only a handful of people who had ever breastfed and only seeing it up close from a couple of them, I had a huge learning curve. Since then, I've become a doula, a lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator. I'm your host, Lo Nigrosh, and I welcome you to the Milk Making Minutes, where we explore breastfeeding experiences through the lens of systemic barriers, so that you know your breastfeeding struggles are not your fault and your triumphs really are the miracles you feel they are.
Okay, so there are lots of considerations when it comes to weaning from the pump. Are you an exclusive pumper? Do you pump primarily from work? Do you have really fixed pumping hours that cannot be messed with? Is your pumping schedule flexible? Are you an oversupplier? Do you eke out just enough milk? Are you somebody who gets clogged ducts or mastitis consistently? And if you miss even a minute of pumping, then you're afraid that you might start to get plugged ducts. So I want to encourage you to think about the options that I lay before you right now, and to see yourself as the expert of your body, and then to make the decisions that are right for you. And then after you hear these options, if you're thinking, I've Googled, and what Lo is saying is kind of what I've seen when I Googled, this isn't really helping, it's because I can't really give individual advice to an audience of thousands. And I would love to give you individual advice. And I can. I will be able to do that. I'm very confident because I've done that for years for pumping people trying to wean. And I would love for you to reach out to me if you are feeling less than confident about how to do that, especially if you're in a situation where you're feeling worried about getting sick if you wean, or if you have a scheduling difficulty that's making it hard for you to wean from the pump. So reach out to me. All of my information is in the show notes, but you can find me at www.quabbinbirthservices.com. As always, I can most likely bill your insurance, or I can provide you a super bill to get reimbursed. And we can set you up so that you're feeling really confident about your weaning process. And I can help you navigate this so that you're feeling as good as possible. So with that being said, there are several ways that you can approach weaning from the pump. One way is to just drop one pumping session at a time every 3 to 7 days. Now, who might qualify for this? So if you are not an oversupplier, if you are somebody who makes just enough milk, and if you are somebody who has a little bit of a flexible pumping schedule, and if you are somebody who, if you skip a session now and then, you are not going to have severe consequences on your own body, then this might be for you. So you're going to drop a session. Don't start with the first session of the day or the last nightly session of the day. Leave those two for last. Those are going to be your last two. So some middle session or even a nighttime session if you're an exclusive pumper and you've still been pumping in the night. So start with one of those. And if at any time you feel really full and uncomfortable, there's a few things you can do. You can use ice. You can use ibuprofen. You can express milk to comfort. So if you are at home and you can go ahead and ice up and take ibuprofen, great. But don't ever think that you can't express. The key is that you're only going to express to comfort instead of expressing the full 3, 4, 5 ounces, 2 ounces, 1 ounce, depending on how much you have typically expressed in a sitting, that you have always tried to express. So if you normally try to pump for 20 minutes and you got 1 ounce or 3 ounces, then you're just going to express for 5 minutes until you don't feel so full anymore, regardless of how much milk comes out. So you're going to drop that session. Once you notice that you don't feel any discomfort anymore and you feel totally normal after having dropped that session, then you can choose a second session to drop. So it's going to be pretty gradual. But this is going to give your body a chance to downregulate, and it is going to prevent getting clogged ducts and mastitis. So you're just going to let your body be your guide there. If you're on a really tight pumping schedule, let's say you work in a school or you work in an office environment or some sort of call center environment where you have very fixed breaks, and there is no way that if you start to feel full and engorged that you can run off and express some milk really quickly. So this first option doesn't work for you. Then what you're going to do is you're going to continue to take your pumping breaks as you always do, but you will gradually decrease the pumping time for every session by 2 minutes. So every pumping session you have, you will decrease by 2 minutes every other day. If you typically pump for 20 minutes at every session, then the first day that you start your weaning process, you will pump for 18 minutes at every session. And you're going to do that for 2 days. And then on the third day, you will pump for 16 minutes. Then you'll do that for 2 days. And then you will pump for minutes, so on and so forth. And so this will give your body a chance every couple of days to downregulate. Now, you know your body best. So if you are a severe oversupplier and 2 minutes is too much, then you might have to say, okay, I am just going to decrease it by 30 seconds. And you are going to really stick to the timer on this. And it's going to be very slow for you, or 1 minute. If you are somebody who ekes out just enough milk, then you might be able to decrease by 5 minutes each session. So you can play around with these times. It does not have to be exact. You know what's best for your body, and there's some wiggle room there depending on what your body can tolerate. You can also continue to use ice and ibuprofen to help your body to deal with any swelling that might be occurring from a buildup of milk from the change that's been happening. And then the third way that you can deal with this. And this is for somebody who doesn't have quite a fixed schedule. If you work from home, if you stay home with your kids, if your work schedule is really flexible, what you can do is you can gradually increase the length of time between pumping sessions. If you normally pump at 9 o'clock and then at 12 o'clock and then at 3 o'clock, you could try pumping at 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, then 5 o'clock and see how that goes. Or you could pump at 10 o'clock for your first one, or just wait until you start to feel pressure and pump. Wait until you start to feel pressure and pump. Wait until you start to feel pressure and pump. So you can kind of pay attention to your body and only pump if you feel engorgement, and then only pump to relieve pressure. And it might take a long time to wean off the pump, but then you're not pumping for the purpose of producing milk. You're pumping for the purpose of relieving engorgement. And so those are the best strategies for weaning off of the pump. One other strategy that I haven't mentioned is you can use your hands instead. If you are tired of using the pump and would like to go to hand expression, I have a whole episode on hand expression. My good pal, Francie Webb of Go Milk Yourself, she came on. She is a hand expression expert, and she came on and did a hand expression episode with me. It was episode 46 of the Milk Making Minutes. I'll have that linked in the show notes. So if you would like to alternate hand expression with pumping to relieve engorgement, that's another way that you can not have to be so attached to your double electric pump or your hand pump, if that's what you're using. I get so many questions about weaning from the pump. Share this with your friends who are asking you questions about weaning from the pump. Share this with your clients. If you are a birth worker, if you have an experience of weaning from the pump that is different from this one, I want to hear about it. So join me in the Milk Making Minutes community group. If you are a birth worker, a midwife, a licensed mental health professional who works with people in the perinatal period, a doula of any sort, postpartum or birth doula, a lactation professional, a certified lactation counselor, or a peer counselor, and you are seeing all of the inequities that exist that make feeding our babies human milk so challenging, I want you to join my Milk Making Minutes community group. This is a place that we are going to build where we can all come together and discuss the inequities in our various roles in making it better. There are very few groups where we all come together. And this is that group where parents and supporters come together and share our various perspectives of how the systemic and cultural barriers impact us and what we can do to chip away at them. So I'll see you there.